Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Cruising your way on this episode of Off 90. We speak to a Minnesota author who wrote a book based on his own life. We visit a studio furniture maker in Winona. We hitch a ride with truckers out of Austin. And we browse the Rochester Farmers Market. It's all just ahead, Off 90. Hi, I'm Barbara Keith. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Off 90. Families in the United States have adopted more than 100,000 children from South Korea since 1953. As one of those adopted children, Joel Peterson shares his unique perspective in his book, Dreams of My Mothers. We visited with Joel to find out about the cultures of these two very different countries and the mothers they provided. These women, each in their own way, had a profound influence on Joel's life and his ultimate quest for self-identity.
Most of us, or maybe many of us, never feel that we ever get to know our mothers as people because we knew them as this institution called mom. And so I thought if I wrote a book about two women who were mothers, but also were portrayed as real people who had a journey and they were linked through a unique thing that is known as international adoption, which is a very rare thing, but contained within it is every human passion, drive, hope, dream, love that touches all of us in all parts of our lives. I'm Joel Peterson, and I'm an author. I wrote Dreams of My Mothers, which is categorized as biographical fiction. The book deals with themes where, based on events in my life. I was born to a third world prostitute, impregnated by an American GI. She had a third grade education. She lived in the margins of society. If you want to sort of think of what her life was like, think of, and not to pick on any one place or any one time, but think of, say, America 1926. Selma, Alabama, and a poor, uneducated, single white woman with a half-black child. How would she have been treated? How would he have been treated? And that was the basis and the start of my life, and so those are things that you can't and you shouldn't sugarcoat. And I also shared that, it's traumatic. Think of if you are 6 years old and your mother tells you, I'm sending you away. I'm not going to be your mother anymore. You're going to have a new family. And you're like, what the heck does that mean? How does that work? And not here, but you're going to be sent somewhere far away to people who don't look like you, don't speak your language, and you can kind of think of what that might have been. You cannot understand maybe the joys and the triumphs of life unless you are willing to go ahead and starkly see the anti-joys and the anti-triumphs of life. America is changing, the face of America is changing. We are still struggling with who is American, what does America look like? And that's partly what I wrote my book about, is to put front and center some of those kind of issues and dialogue. Of the, somewhere, nobody knows for certain, 150 to 200,000 Korean children that have been adopted out of Korea, the vast majority were sent to the United States. Every child deserves to have a home, to have parents, to have every opportunity to be loved and cherished. So adoption and international adoption, and often what they call transracial adoption, where you have parents of one race adopting children from another race, is quite polarizing. A lot of strong feelings on many sides of that, and I understand and completely validate those feelings. But what we know is this: adoption is still one of the most successful human social interventions ever invented. The Minnesota that I grew up in does still exist in many, many ways. I go back to my hometown of St. Peter, Minnesota, and it is remarkably the same. I think it's added maybe 1 or 2 more traffic lights, so maybe there's 4 total in the town. People still know each other. People still assume the best of each other. And I think Minnesota in general is like that. I was very fortunate that my mother and the character of Ellen Lindquist that I write about in the book, Dreams of My Mother's, passed on lessons saying, you know, the key thing is that we all judge ourselves by our intentions, but others can only judge you by your actions. So we may have intended, we may be very grateful, we intended to send that thank you note, but if you didn't send that thank you note, other people just think you're an ingrate. And the character of Ellen, modeled after my mother, passed on this lesson not so much in her words, but in her actions. She did these things. She lived her life a certain way. And that, I believe, is the thing that we can do as parents. Our children pay attention to us all the time. And so they look at our actions. We may talk to them a fraction of our lives, but they will know our actions. So it's really about living the example that you want them to live in their own life. I remember giving my dad for a Father's Day gift one time, I think I was 12, a coffee cup. And it said on it, you can always tell a sweet, but you can't tell him much. And, you know, and there's a certain reputation among Scandinavians, among people who know Scandinavians, that Scandinavians are pretty stubborn, or maybe that it's hard to dissuade them once they have set themselves to a certain thing. You know, Scandinavians are known for a certain stoicism, but what again came through was that it wasn't so much in the words that I think the Scandinavian tradition is all about. The Scandinavian culture somewhat distrusts words. They look at actions. Ironically, I decided to put it into words in a book to try to capture that. So it's very gratifying to know that people are so vested that they care about these characters that I have helped bring to life in a book. The fact that those characters were based on real people, I'm not sure that people really care about the real people per se. Real people are very complex, and we don't have simple little beginning, ends, and wrapped up nice bow tie lives. We continue on until our lives don't. But those characters that are introduced in that book can go on and may have additional stories, which I hope maybe I can share with the readers in the future.
Jamie Schell moved to Maui with the goal and desire of becoming an artist and studio furniture maker. Jamie has since been making furniture, custom architectural features, sculpture, and wall-hanging art professionally for the past 12 years. We paid Jamie a visit at his shop in Winona.
I've heard it said that aloha is indescribable. You can't define it with words. You have to live it, you have to experience it. And you know, even here now, being very aware of my place and where I'm at, that I still try to put as much aloha as possible into everything I make. I'm Jamie Schell. I'm a studio furniture maker and a sculptor. That's how I would define myself and what I do as work. A definition of studio furniture maker, basically meaning that the furniture is made in a studio, not a production type shop where you're you know, replicating and punching out, you know, pieces. because it is in a studio, it's related to the arts. It's not about production. It is about, you know, the art, the creative aspect of it, when you get moved and what comes out of that, you know, inspiration. You know, the studio furniture is a very meticulous thing. You know, every detail. The craft is at the heart of it, certainly. So you're paying attention to every single detail, meticulous, tight joints, you know, but also paying attention to the curves, being everything perfect, the wood grain. It's really meticulous. So the sculpture has come to me from fatigue of the meticulous stuff. You know, I'll spend 2 months on a piece of furniture and I'm working every single detail, and I need this release. So quite often at the same time I'm building furniture, I will turn around, walk over and work on a sculpture, which the sculpture I do is a lot more free-form. It's a lot of discovery. It's laying down textures on surfaces and sculpting and different colors and putting things back together in sort of a collage form. On a trip to Hawaii, I stayed an extra week. And on the island of Maui, I came across some studio furniture makers. And I saw that and I just said, wow, you know, there's people that are able to make these things that were meticulous, but really beautiful and really creative. And I just said, that's what I want to do. So I wrote a resignation letter and said I'm moving to Hawaii to become a furniture maker. Finally, we made the decision that we were going to move back to the Midwest. And it's a great decision. I mean, it truly is. It's, you know, I miss Hawaii dearly, as does my wife, but, you know, we hold a lot of that still with us, and it guides us, and our son is very happy to be around family and relatives as well, so. It's a driving thing for me, and I really appreciate when I hear it, is people say, oh, my grandpa used to do woodworking, or my father used to do woodworking. A whole generation is missed between the person that they know that used to do woodworking and them. It's like there's a hole in there where it's not done anymore. To me, that's kind of the writing on the wall saying, you know, this is something that not many people are doing, and it's like if you don't kind of buckle down and hold tight and keep it alive, I think it has potential to just become more and more rare and go away. It hasn't always been easy. Being an artist is not easy. You know, it takes a very supportive spouse or partner, if you have one of those, but also supportive that she also appreciates what I do and she enjoys it, and she, you know, encourages me to keep doing it and working hard. So, yeah, so I think I'm where I'm supposed to be.
There are about 4 million truck drivers in the U.S., moving millions of pounds of freight. Training these drivers is the mission of an instructor at Riverland Community College in Austin. Most of his students are older than the average college student. They come from all walks of life, but are driven to become truck drivers. Let's take a look at who will be moving our freight.
We gotta try to head him off. Watch out he don't cut into us. Pull over closer.
I think that Hollywood has sort of sensationalized the trucking profession. Truck drivers were seen as the white knights on the road. And now I think, unfortunately, people have a tendency to look down at us.
Kidding, you couldn't even pay for the headlights. Anything else?
My name is Jonathan Reimer, and I run the truck driver training program here at Riverland Community College in Austin, Minnesota. You figure that there's probably 4 million truck drivers in the United States. The days of someone having a warehouse full of product is pretty much gone by the wayside, and instead what they expect is they want to place an order for that product and they want that product to be brought immediately. And so that's where a quality transportation firm comes into play, and a quality driver that's able to move those products from point A to point B.
Make sure on our wheels that everything's well lubricated, and that down here.
The goal of the program is a little different than most truck driving schools. Most truck driving schools train someone to get a CDL license. A CDL is a commercial driver's license. The license is merely something that we're going to do on one of the days of our 12 weeks together. And what we're going to do is we're going to train someone how to be successful in the transportation industry. And that can include a variety of different types of equipment, and it can also include, advancing into positions that don't necessarily include even driving the truck.
I'm just checking for a proper connection with the fifth wheel and the kingpin, making sure that the jaws are locked around.
A quality driver is an individual who is a professional. It's an individual who is attuned to safety and is also educated and knowledgeable about all the different aspects of what it really means to be a professional driver. Trucking is probably one of the most highly regulated endeavors on planet Earth. There's over 800 different violations that a driver could be cited for by a DOT inspector. And so we try to teach our students what those violations are and how they can, not partake in any of that.
I'm Daniel Vogelgesang, a truck driving student at Riverland Community College. When I first came out of high school, 1985, I became an auto mechanic because I'm very mechanical. So I always had an interest in trucks, cars, automobiles in general. Our assumptions of how tractors are just out on the road with us, just like cars, but there's so much more going on.
There's so many things that you have to know about driving a truck. When you consider the weight laws, when you consider the restricted routes, when you consider, the size of the vehicle and the places that you just can't go. And so you have to be able to plan the trips effectively and know where you're going to go in advance so that you don't become part of these problems that you usually see YouTube clips of. And so what we try to do with our program is we try to present a professional image where an individual would know better than to make these kinds of mistakes. Unprofessional drivers, like the kind that are going 70 miles an hour on ice when the cars are doing 45, they're taking huge risks.
Learning how to understand how to back a vehicle that large, which I think a lot of people are very apprehensive and fearful of. And even as students, we come into it kind of like,
She didn't lock the trailer banks.
oh my gosh, I can't parallel park that thing, there's no way. And step by step, it all starts to fall together.
All right, that's perfect.
I would say the hardest thing is probably going to be the lifestyle of trucking, because it's not a job. A lot of people that are new to the industry, they're used to working a 40-hour work week where they go home on the weekend and they're home every night. Those kind of jobs are available in the trucking industry, but it's going to be difficult to get those. As a liquid tanker driver for many years, I would say that the average motorist really should understand that when you see a liquid tanker, which would be cylindrical in shape, that every time the driver puts on the brakes, the liquid all goes to the front. And then every time he accelerates, the liquid goes to the back. So what happens is there's a tug of war taking place inside that trailer. And the rule is we make no sudden moves. The average motorist, if they really knew what they were looking at when they see one of these going by, they would probably give us the room that we would like to have. So in a tractor trailer the size of the one behind us, 75 feet, we need 4 lanes to make a right turn.
Coming into truck driving at 49 was a clear choice that I wanted. Again, there were a lot of surprises to me, but it's not fear at all, because Jonathan's a very confident instructor. He talks about it right from the beginning, never pulls any punches. This is the reality of being on the road, the shortcomings of living out of a sleeper maybe, giving up a little bit of family time.
Please leave your logs for me so I can check those this weekend. I get people with bachelor's degrees, and I get people that just got a GED. And I have people that don't have a GED or a high school diploma. So to try to get all of those people with all those different types of backgrounds in the same room, you have to be able to recognize different types of learning styles and realize different ways of trying to teach people.
It's a privilege to learn something that's very professional, much more than I would have ever thought. I've always been a lifelong learner, and this is a lot to learn. Never underestimate truck driving anymore. It's not a toy, it's not a game. Being a high energy person and very cerebral, I think a lot, and I like to wrap my head around the bigger picture all the time, and that's a big picture. Slowing that down, relaxing, and going through the steps, because you don't get in and shift fast, and you're not in a race, even though you might perceive it that way when you hear it. It's fundamentally step by step. Slow it down.
When you look at the types of technology that we have on the equipment today, and you look at, you know, some of the great drivers that are out there that are racking up millions of accident-free miles, these people are true professionals. One of the things that I still enjoy most about being on the road, because when I'm not teaching, I do run over the road myself, and I go all over North America, all over Canada, all out to the West Coast. And the thing that I like about it the most is, you know, you've got time to think, and your view out your windshield is continually changing. Once you get in the western states, the stress level is very low, because you know you might drive for several miles and not have any traffic around you. Unfortunately, most people who work a regular 40-hour work week and a 9-to-5 kind of job, they never get to see all of these beautiful things that, you know, your average over-the-road driver gets to see all the time. I can't believe that people are willing to stay in their hometown, in their little area, and they're not willing to branch out to other parts of the country and go see some of these things.
Fresh produce on a beautiful spring day? What could be better? There are many farmers markets in our region showcasing vegetables, flowers, baked goods, and more. We stopped by the Rochester Farmers Market to see what was in season.
I guess this is, for us, it's a real important part of farming.
To get the freshest produce, too.
Well, we have a Tuesday market every Tuesday through the end of September. We run from 2 to 6. It's a nice kind of smaller alternative to our larger Saturday market. On Tuesdays we offer, I guess, what we call a neighborhood scaled farmers market.
Well, you get much fresher things, more of a variety, I think, from the small farmers. Helps the community grow, and why not keep the money, you know, where it belongs, and in the place where everyone's living.
We're able to deal directly with our customers, and we know what the customer wants, so we don't have the intermediary telling us to do this or do that. We have the customer that we try to respond to.
So today we have about 8 different family farms represented, whereas on Saturday we'll have maybe as many as 60.
2 years ago, my friend asked me if I would come help her at her farm in exchange for all the produce that I want. And I did a good job, so she invited me to also come and help her sell at the farmers market. This is the 4th Tuesday market that I've done, and we also do the Saturday market. This is the freshest food that people can get. It comes from within probably 25 miles of where they live. It's grown by people that they likely know. So they're supporting families, actual people, not big corporations.
I think it's a lot of, family businesses bringing the money flow around into the family business, and it's something that my kids and my parents can do together. Everybody can help out.
Besides, obviously, the freshest things you can work with, I love a good deal.
The farmers market, you want something that's local and doesn't have all the antibiotics and hormones and additives that a lot of your stores carry.
We appreciate all the fresh produce.
You're welcome. Come see us again.
That's all for this episode. Please help Off 90 meet its financial obligations by becoming a member of KSMQ Public Television. Give us a call at 507-481-2095 or 1-800-658-2539 or sign up online at ksmq.org. Thanks for watching. Join us next time. Off 90.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.